having studied what had been happening in the world, what happened in the Soviet Union, we advised you that if you want to develop your country, you will have to do it through private sector-led growth. The private sector will be the one to create jobs and wealth. Up to that time, there was confusion. Some people thought that the government should be the one to create wealth and jobs through the parastatals. But we found that the parastatals tended to be inefficient, to be corrupt, to waste resources, and become a drain on the government. Many of the parastatals by 1986 were being subsidized by the government. Take, for instance, Coffee Marketing Board. They couldn't buy coffee on their own. The government had to put in money. They were calling it crop finance. Minister of Finance had to look for a huge amount of money to give to Coffee Marketing Board to buy crops. They were calling it crop finance. That means the government would not do the roads. Instead, it would divert money to crop finance. Then you had UTC, transport, vehicles, buses, government buses, which were being run by the government. And because they were not efficient, the government had to subsidize them. Then there was the airline. It needed subsidy. That's why we said, therefore, no, this is not a correct way. The correct way is to have private sector-led growth. Let the private sector be the one to create jobs and to create wealth. How will the private sector create jobs and wealth? Those two words. If you go on the streets, the children are now asking for jobs. We have educated so many children, those children are looking for jobs. So who will create the jobs? Is this the public, is this the parastatals? No, the answer of the NRM in 1987 was that it is the private sector to create jobs. Why? Because the private sector has done it in other countries. If you look at the Western countries especially, they became modern because they relied on the private sector. The Eastern countries like Russia and China tried to rely on the public sector to create jobs and wealth. They succeeded to some extent, but it was not easy to sustain. That's why you had the Soviet Union running into problems in 1990. China has succeeded. It's now the second richest country in the world because it decided to combine the use of the private sector with the use of the public sector. So they were clever. They became more flexible. And that's why China has succeeded. And we could borrow a bit from China because in some cases, some of the public enterprises do well. So you don't have to close all the public enterprises. But the main effort should be in the private sector. Now, how, from where will the private sector create jobs and wealth? The sectors are four. When you go back to your area there, you go on the radio because you have got a lot of radios which are always abusing Museveni. You go and budget with them. Those radios, say you tell them you spend 3 hours abusing Museveni, but some other hours talking about the future of the country. And if a radio does not agree to do that, you recommend it and we close it because it has no value. Yes, you can abuse Museveni for 3 hours, 4 hours, good. But have 5, 6 hours about the country, about the future of the country. All radios are duty-bound to do that because that's what the law says. They are licensed because they are supposed to serve a public interest. So the sectors where the private sector can create jobs are four. During the campaign, I challenged those who were having a different opinion to tell me whether there's a fifth one. Nobody has come up with a fifth one. I therefore assume that the sectors are still four. Four sectors where you can create jobs and wealth. What are they? Sector one, agriculture, commercial agriculture. If you go into commercial agriculture, you can create wealth, grow crops, raise livestock as wealth, but in the process you also create jobs for the people. That's sector one, agriculture. Therefore, when you are there in the districts and you are doing what our Basoga people say, otiaime butiami. Otiaime butiami. Meaning you are just seated and you call yourself a chief administrative officer. Don't we have chief administrative officers here? Then I'm afraid you are a chief conservator of poverty. So they should change your title and say Chief CCP. Chief Conservator of Poverty.